Back in your seat, Brian. At this time, I'd like to introduce the three people closest to Brian: his wife, Judy, his son, Mark, and his daughter, Jenna.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of my family, we would like to thank you all for coming here to celebrate this happy occasion of Brian's retirement. Brian and I were dating 42 years ago when he started his career at the club. For 42 years, I shared Brian with the club, as he worked anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. So when many of you have come up to me and asked me how I felt about Brian's retirement, about his retirement, I said, what the heck am I going to do with this guy for 24 hours? But then I realized that there are enough unfinished projects to last him around our house for years. Now, you say years, is that really true? Well, yeah, anyone who has ever worked with Brian on a project realizes it takes him a lot of time because he easily gets distracted and misdirected. This is a typical day for Brian on a project day. First, he takes a trip to Home Depot, gets all the materials that he thinks he needs and brings them home and loads them, starts getting his tools ready, and then realizes he doesn't have something. So another trip back to Home Depot. On his return home, he decides to swing by a friend's house to discuss this project over a beer. Sometimes 2 beers. Upon arriving home, he spots a dead tree on our property and says, I better get my chainsaw out. So he goes to our shed and pulls out the chainsaw, only to find out it doesn't have any gas. So back into his car he goes to go get gas. In case you might think this is an exaggeration, I've taken pictures of a recent project he has tried to do. One of our lamps needed a new switch. Brian takes it apart, and as you can see, some parts are on the table and a few tools on the counter. And yes, Brian considers the trusty old coat hanger as a very good tool. So I didn't hear too much going on in the kitchen, and about an hour later I decide, what the heck is he doing? So I look outside, and guess where he was? Outside cutting wood. Right? The lamp took 2 days. Brian, you might not be the best at repairing, but you certainly are the best at caring. You care about everyone, always seeing the good in people, and are always lending a hand when needed. You've taught me and our kids and many of our friends here tonight the importance of giving. I want to thank you for all you do and look forward to this new chapter of our life. Thank you.
Hi, Dad. You are all here today to celebrate my dad, who has left a positive and meaningful impact on each and every one of your lives. I know this because my dad preaches the importance of making those a part of my universe feel loved and cared for. The reason why so many of you are here today is because he's made you feel special. You, my dear Father, are special. Now, I know what all of you must be thinking, and I agree. I am lucky to have his genes. Along with his DNA, he's given me 26 years of lessons, and although it took me a little over 75% of those 26 years to fully digest and comprehend some lessons, they are now fully instilled in me and have developed into an overall meaningful outlook of life. I live in New York City, and let me tell you, it's been useful having his ideology embedded in me. As jaded as I have become over the last years of living there, and as jaded as I will ever become, because of my dad, I will always be thoughtful to the thousands of strangers I pass each day. I will always give directions to tourists. I will empathize with a person who spills a glass of wine on me by accident. And I will be understanding to the person who pushes me against a smelly armpit so they can fit into a packed subway. I love New York. Unfortunately, for me, my dad does not. Another thing my dad doesn't love is clothing shopping. Fortunately for him, he never really had to shop for clothing thanks to the Boys and Girls Club. My dad's wardrobe drips in Boys and Girls Club logos. It's actually extremely impressive. He has the red vest, the gray vest, the black vest, and the blue vest. He also has pins, hats, the necessary golf shirts, and endless amounts of t-shirts, dating back to well before my brother or I was born. Fashion is a form of expression, and even if we don't consciously plan our outfits, they can still reflect our feelings and often our values. It doesn't matter where my dad is going or who he is seeing, he will always have a piece of the Boys and Girls Club literally on him. And that's because the club's values are his values, and his clothing has become almost like a second skin. Now, Dad, I appreciate that, I really do. But as your presence within the walls of the club goes from literal to figurative, we as a family are thinking maybe your fashion can trend this way too. To get you started, Mom took some of those beloved t-shirts and made you this beautiful quilt. Anytime you're missing that second skin, all you need to do is wrap yourself up in it. Now, Dad, one more thing. You are retired now. May I remind you of one of those many lessons you have instilled in me. Every day is a gift, and to acknowledge and appreciate that gift, even the days you'll be spending with me in New York City shopping. Congratulations, Dad. I love you.
Get rid of Jenna. Yours is about 40.
Like a little fairy, just kind of. Okay, Mark.
Yeah. My father was one hell of a baseball pitcher in his day. Most of you know this. Some of you may not, but he was a hard-throwing lefty. Threw 90 in the 90s. He had a great curveball, and I'd put his pickoff move against anyone who ever played the game. He taught me a lot about the game, particularly about the mental aspects of the game. One lesson I remember in particular was about the beanball. Now, the beanball carries a lot of weight because it's connected to fear in the batter, and it's connected to brutality or vengeance in the pitcher, right? Getting hit with the ball. Getting hit can hurt. In the big leagues, get hit with one of these, it's something it's part of the regular culture. It's you pay back a hitter when they celebrate too much after a home run, or if someone slides cleat up on the bases, the pitcher then gets that guy back. When it's deliberate, it's what leads to all-out brawls. You guys have seen the pitchers running from the bullpens, coaches get involved. Many of you guys right now are probably remember this one well, right here. As a young kid, I thought, it was a normal part of the game. And, one day I asked my dad about it. I said, why do they do this? Did you ever do it? And I expected, I looked at my dad as like a big league guy, so I expected him to be like, yeah, tell me all about it and when he did it. But he looked at me and he said, Mark, he said, I never hit a guy. There were catchers that wanted me to hit guys, but I never did because, one, when you hit a guy, you could seriously hurt that person. And you never want to seriously hurt that person. You never want to seriously, intentionally hurt someone. And two, when you hit him, he gets on base. And when he gets on base, you're helping the other team, and in a way, he wins. If he's a jerk, you throw a fastball by him, blow it by him, or fool him, make him look like an idiot with a curveball, strike him out. You do the right thing. He said, you have a lot of power as a pitcher. You hold the ball in your hand. He said, you represent the whole team, everyone behind you, so you do the right thing. You strike them out. Now, I grew up in the 80s and 90s as a Red Sox fan, and a lot of you guys, it was a great time to be a Red Sox fan because the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry was at its best. You had the players who were giving a little bit extra when they went out there, and the fans were at each other. They were vicious, but it was exciting as a young guy. And as the Red Sox hadn't won a World Series, right, since, 1918, and the Yankees had won 26 since. So it was you just wanted them to win. But alongside that great energy was this tremendous pain, this pain of generations who witnessed Red Sox lose again and again. And I remember watching baseball with my father. The Red Sox, they'd be up by 2 runs in the 8th inning, and the other team would get a couple guys on base, and he'd look at me and say, that's it, I'm going to bed. I know what's going to happen here. And I say, Dad, we're up by 2 runs. Like, we're going to win this game. Nope, I'm going to bed. He ended up going to bed and ironically reading about some Civil War battle. He got more pleasure out of that, but, the Red Sox would lose the game, and I slowly got to understand that pain. But many of you in this room know that pain, and one of the torturous years was 1996, and the Red Sox missed the playoffs that year, and the Yankees were in the pennant race. It was the first game they were playing the Baltimore Orioles, and they were down 4-3. And all Red Sox fans were salivating. They were like, okay, if they lose this game, then this is the collapse of this Yankees run until this happened.
I was there.
In right field, Tarasco going back to the track, to the wall. And what happens here? He contends that a fan reaches up and touches it. But Richie Garcia says no, it's a home run. Here comes Davey Johnson out to argue as Jeter comes across to tie the game.
Now, of course, the Yankees would go on to win this game. They win in extra innings, then they'd win the pennant, and they go on to win the World Series. The curse was as live as ever. But Jeffrey Mayer was this boy's name. He was 12. He's the kid who reached over and he grabbed Derek Jeter's home run. Today, it would have been reversed with instant replay, but we didn't have it then. Instead, Jeffrey Mayer became lumped into this Red Sox, like everyone sort of saw him now as this target. It's part of the curse, this 12-year-old Jeffrey Mayer. It's all his fault. So jump forward 8 years, and I'm pitching for Trinity College, and I'm having the best year of my life. I'm 7-0. I'm brimming with confidence and arrogance, and no one can touch me. And I'm playing Wesleyan late in the season, and they're a conference rival. And who should step to the plate but little Jeffrey Mayer? Jeffrey Mayer's not little anymore. He's one of the league's best hitters. And now up until that point in my career, my father's words had left an imprint. I'd never hit anyone. But in that moment, my feeling of untouchableness, right, and my sense, this hubris were coupled with this intense love of the Red Sox. And mind you, this is 2004. We'd yet to win anything. And the image of Bill Buckner was in my head. And I said, for all of the Red Sox fan everywhere, I'm going to get this kid. Jeffrey Mayer needed to feel the sting. So I get in my pitch, and the catcher doesn't know. He calls a fastball, and I say, okay, and I aim for I wind up, and I'm aiming for his, the shoulder down, and I let one fly. I throw it hard at him, and it sails up, and he backs up. And it goes to the backstop, and I missed him. Oh, my God. What do I do? All right, I'm still in this thing. I got to do it. I got to do this thing for the Red Sox. So I get back on the mound, and I'm aiming for his hip a little bit lower because I was clearly throwing high, and I wind up and I throw one right at his hip. And Jeffrey Mayer was also a fast kid. He led the league in steals, and he does this ninja move out of the way, and it goes again to the backstop. I get the ball. The catcher looks at me. Jeffrey Mayer's looking at me, and I grab the ball and I start walking back, and my dad's voice starts coming into my head. He says, do the right thing. So at that point, I say, okay, I'm going to strike this kid out. I could still do it for the Red Sox fan. If I strike him out, I'm still doing it, right? The problem is it's a 2-0 count. That's a hitter's count. And I have to throw a strike. So I got good stuff. I'm untouchable. I wind up, and I throw a pitch off the outside corner, and he smacks it into the gap for a triple. We were up late in the game, 3-1, and so again, just my confidence is super high. But at that point, the rest of that game, they scored 3 runs that inning, and we lost 4-3, and it was the only loss for me that season. And I consider that game both the highest and the lowest point, probably of my career. Today, I realized that I lost that game for my team because I lost my father's voice for a minute. I lost sight of what was right. This kid didn't deserve to get hit. He was 12. He did exactly what I would have done if I was 12, right? For all my life, his voice has been a guide for me. And I think in one way or another, it's been a guide for many of you guys in this room. I don't always mean explicitly, right? I think he embodies this message in the way that he treats you, as you've heard many of these speakers say tonight, attest to tonight. He embodies it in his compassion and friendship and his willingness to put aside whatever he's doing to help you if you ask for it. Just like he encouraged me to recognize my power I held as a pitcher and guided me as a man to do the right thing, he's encouraged many of us explicitly or implicitly in the same way. Whether it be those donors with the capacity to drive entire campaigns or those staff members who learned from my dad that you could turn a kid's day around with just a smile. Dad, I know that even though you're retiring from the club, those imprints on all of us aren't going away. That voice lives on in the fabric of the club and its supporters, and in fact, in anyone who knows you. So, tonight, I raise one of your home brews as a celebration to your career, but also with a deep sense of love and gratitude for you, for being that voice. Cheers.